What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, not E3 season continues on until we figure out another name for this time period, with a couple of other major showcases that certainly split the internet. One, people seemed pretty excited about, and the other, not so much. We'll go over all of them line by line. Also, we do have Nintendo making an announcement. It's actually a sale for Switch games, and you know what? There are some pretty good discounts. I figured we'd go over those here today as well. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure the like button helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Phil Spencer's shirt from the Xbox Showcase, because it certainly caught some eyes when you can see a picture of it here. It was Hexen, and people had some questions like, hey, are you teasing or hinting towards something here? Because he had previously mentioned when he was doing name drops of different intellectual properties that Activision Blizzard was holding on to, like Guitar Hero, Hexen came up. Well, Steven Totilo did ask Phil Spencer about this. Specifically, was he teasing the announcement of the company's next big first-person shooter reboot? And Phil just said, that wasn't me trying to pre-announce it at all. So, I mean, he seems to like Hexen, and it's interesting because Hexen was a kind of a series of games. There's like 3 or 4 of them during the 90s, and it's kind of odd because Raven developed it, but it actually published it, and I think it was built on the Quake engine as well. So you kind of see that the rights over that game are kind of scattered there a bit, but it wouldn't matter anyway if Microsoft did end up acquiring Activision Blizzard, as they're still kind of fighting that one out. Then yeah, they could technically go back, take Hexen and reboot it. What would it look like? I mean, it's anyone's guess. That was a game that is more stylized towards like the original Doom visuals, and now you see what we're doing currently. So it would at least be interesting. And the thing with Microsoft with Game Pass is they're always looking for more variety, not necessarily sales right out of the gate or anything like that. And it seems like a good spot for a Hexen reboot to exist. So that, hey, here's hoping. I guess that's something that could happen down the road. Also, sticking with Microsoft and their showcase for a minute, while we had, of course, that event with a bunch of game announcements, it appears there is a follow-up event happening later on today. You might want to keep an eye out for. You can see this posted up by Tom Warren, who did point this out in like a press release from Microsoft, saying that they're holding an Xbox Game Showcase extended stream Tuesday, June 13th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. It will include games from our creative partners that we didn't show you today, plus in-depth interviews, gameplay walkthroughs with brand new footage, and more. So if you were someone interested in seeing more gameplay for potentially some titles that they showcased during that event, you might want to tune in. I don't know if you're going to see any major reveals or anything, because you feel like that would have been in the showcase, but certainly I'm sure there will be questions answered that we didn't get there during that showcase, as well as some more in-depth looks at some of these different titles. But certainly something to keep our eye out there, and I'll see if there's anything really big that comes out of it, and we'll talk about it in Newswave. Oh, and it also looks like we have another delisting on our hands. Just wanted to give you the heads up, just in case you were maybe thinking about picking up this game for your retro collection. This posted up by Soul Calibur on Twitter, saying that Soul Calibur 5 is taking its final curtain call on the stage of history and will be sunset on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 June 19th, 2023. So, in a week, it'll be pulled down, which tells me that, yeah, physical copies will probably jump in price somewhat. I mean, it's not backwards compatible in the Xbox Series or Xbox One anyway with the Xbox 360 version, but still, with these games that do use licensed downloadable content, yeah, you're going to have issues with that. In this case, they're just delisting it. So if you were someone, I guess, who wanted Soul Calibur 5 and you're going to fire up your PS3 or 360, might want to buy it digitally now or just pick up a physical copy. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with one of the major showcases that aired yesterday. This was Ubisoft Forward, and it was a longer showcase than I was anticipating, mostly because I figured they would have a good 8 or 9 titles to show off, and in my mind, okay, that'll go by fairly quickly. But in this case, Ubisoft actually took the time for each title. They showed a lot of gameplay, actually, and they went in depth with some of the characters, stories, and mechanics, which, for the most part, I thought this was a good presentation. But we'll start from the top here with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And I have to say, as I'm looking at this, I really wish I was more into Avatar, like, at all, because it does look like probably the best Avatar game we've had. I mean, That's not saying a lot. I do remember the Xbox 360 one not being great, but it does appear to be like a first-person, third-person hybrid shooter, sort of. It is open world. James Cameron seems heavily involved, as he's even there kind of on, well, at least in a video package produced for the stage, kind of detailing some of the lore and stuff being worked into it. Is a new original story. The visuals look really good. Specifically, I like the bright and colorful environments they showed you traversing on foot or flying around. Now, the part that concerned me, I'll say slightly, is as they started to explain the mechanics, kind of the gameplay loop, it did sound like Far Cry because they were talking about taking over bases and outposts and completing points on the map, and that with some of the first-person shooting aspects and the upgrading, yeah, getting those Far Cry vibes. But it's Ubisoft. That, of course, could work into some of their open world stuff because it's what they know. But December 7th, so it is going to make it out this year. Look forward about, 6 months from now. Can pick that up. And there was talks about there just being digital only here. No, there are physical copies that are up for pre-order, so good news there for collectors. X-Defiant was next up. This is a fast-paced shooter. It's been like closed beta multiple times. There is an open beta, an open session as they called it, that will happen next week, June 21st to the 23rd, PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Then they talked about some of their seasons coming up because it's a free-to-play shooter, so obviously they're going to lean into the seasons aspect and all this. Preseason will include 14 maps, 5 factions, 5 modes, 24 maps. Year 1 will include 4 new factions, 12 new weapons, 12 new maps, so 1 map per month for that entire year, and it is launching later this summer. So, competitive shooters, you might want to be checking this one out here. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown still looks awesome. I talked about the backlash right the other day, and the game looks great. I don't know what to tell you. Time travel elements being involved here. Semi-open world opens up further as you gain new abilities, aka a Metroidvania. Ultimate attacks I thought looked really, really cool. They were over the top at times. They zoomed in, showed off, yes, these are 3D character models that we have set up in a 2D plane. Again, January 18th. I think they're onto something here. Looking really good with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Captain Laserhawk: A Blood Dragon Remix. This is from Adi Shankar. They appeared on stage. It's a Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon inspired kind of anime. It's very over the top, had a lot of Easter eggs to some of Ubisoft's other franchises and stuff. It is releasing later this year on Netflix. They then showed off The Division Resurgence. This is a mobile Division game. It's fall 2023. Skull and Bones. There was a musical performance for this one. All right, closed beta, August 25th to the 28th. Here's hoping this game can come out at some point. The Crew Motorfest. Okay, so they showed this off in, looked like Hawaii was the location from at least what they were showcasing here. It is the next Crew game, essentially, but you customize your vehicles from past, present, and future. They even have electric supercars in there. So that looks kind of fun, I guess. If you're really into some of the previous Crew games, I'm sure you're getting a kick out of this one. It will have a closed beta July 21st through to the 23rd. And it's releasing September 14th, 2023. Assassin's Creed Nexus VR. They showed this in I'll say a very positive light in the sense that they didn't really show it much in terms of gameplay, especially with the visuals. If you've used the Quest 2, you know it's not doing those kind of graphics, but still, it is a Meta Quest 2 game, and it will be following 3 different assassins throughout the Assassin's Creed lore with Ezio, Cassandra, and Connor, so they'll all have their own stories in the game. Then we had Assassin's Creed codenamed Jade. It's a mobile game, free to play, closed beta coming at some point. And then Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was one of the highlights of this entire showcase. It is back to roots for the Assassin's Creed franchise. There's the parkour and climbing still looks top-notch, very, very fluid. You will be picking different quests, as you'd expect, to go after different targets in the game. And it did look like you were collecting information to make the target, taking them down a bit easier, like we did with older Assassin's Creed games. And there'll be different tools, blow darts, poison traps, smoke bombs. They'll all kind of aid in your quest. I also noticed there's a filter to make the game have more of a blue hue, like the original game, releasing October 12th. I like what I see here with Assassin's Creed Mirage. And then to close out the show, Star Wars Outlaws. This, of course, was introduced to us during the Xbox Showcase, and they said there would be gameplay here, And there was. It's an original character and story with Kay Vess, and they have their companion Nyx, who will kind of play into the game a bit as you can control them to distract, or they can distract enemies or go hit buttons or help you complete objectives that way. It is a third-person shooter that appears to have cover elements in it. They also had stealth going on in the game. You had different blaster variants, and as soon as you ran out of that base, it kind of opened up into a larger open-ended or open zone world there. Now, the actions appear to affect your reputation because as you were kind of heading back to your ship, you did see that your reputation had been lost a bit with a certain faction. So I guess because you're stealing from them. And then when they took off, space combat came into play. Then like went into hyperspace, jumped away from there. And at that point, things open up completely, I guess, so I'm curious to see where that adventure takes them. 2024. The thing I really liked about Star Wars Outlaws, by the way, it does not appear that they are, at least at this time, again, things can, of course, change, there are twists in the game, doesn't appear that it's trying to lean on telling a story about a Jedi or have lightsabers all over the place. This feels more like them looking at, like a bounty hunter kind of setup, right? So I at least appreciate that sort of take on Star Wars when obviously everyone else seems to want to do things with lightsabers and force powers. But overall, Ubisoft's presentation I thought was pretty good. I do like the idea of having less games and spending more time on each one of them. And for the most part, it was a fairly diverse lineup for a publisher that mostly follows a formula. It didn't seem as apparent here. So hats off to Ubisoft. I thought it was a pretty good presentation overall. Certainly better than some of the more recent Ubisoft Forwards we'd had. Next up, let's talk about a big announcement from Nintendo as they are rolling along with their summer of Twitter announcements. And this last one is a pretty big sale going on, and I wanted to point it out because there are legitimately some good games that are marked down pretty well, and we can see this over on their sales and deals page that is also linked down in the sources. This is their Hyper Max sale. It will be running through June 25th. And they have they do have a bunch of first-party games on sale. Specifically at the top, you can see Metroid Dread is marked down 30% to $42. But right next to that, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. That's 50% off. And this is what we saw with the Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, is it would just get knocked down constantly in terms of its price with sales all over the place. And this already being $30, not too surprising. That is a really good title to grab. And we, of course, see the DLC that's been rolling out, which includes Rayman coming up here pretty soon. Super Mario Party is down to 30%. Not the newest Mario Party they've come out with, but still a pretty good one. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is down 30% to $42. We have the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Anniversary Edition that's down to $35. That's 50% off, by the way, because that is a $70 Switch game. Fire Emblem Three Houses down 30% to $42. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity down 30% to $42. Maybe if you're someone who picked up and got back into Zelda through Tears of the Kingdom and you wanted to see more, I definitely recommend checking out Age of Calamity, especially on the story side of things. Okami HD is half off to $10. Can't argue with that. Astral Chain at $42. That's down 30%. Bravely Default 2 is marked down 30% to $42. Marvel Ultimate Alliance is marked down 30% to $42. And Persona 5 Royal, that one marked down 40%, now sitting at $36. And those are just some of the highlights. There's still plenty of other games that are marked down with pretty good discounts. So check them out. And of course, leave some suggestions down below as to which games people should be checking out. And in our last bit of news, we'll talk about the other major showcase that happened yesterday, and that is Capcom's event. And while people seemed pleasantly surprised with what they got out of Ubisoft, it was kind of the complete opposite in terms of sentiment online for Capcom. But we'll start at the top, and that's with Path of the Goddess. Again, this is a game we did see and talk about a little bit already at the Xbox Showcase. However, they went a bit more in-depth. Here it is using the RE engine. They described it as an action game, yes, but it has quite a bit of strategy, going so far as called a strategy action game. And I have seen some people mention it kind of reminds them a bit of Onimusha, so I guess it has some Onimusha vibes to it. But either way, it looks interesting, and I'll check it out. Mega Man X Dive, offline mode. Great. There's our Mega Man game for the show. It is a mobile game, Android and iOS, of course. Level up characters and weapons, 100 different characters. It's Mega Man X with RPG elements and gotcha mechanics. This has been out for a while, 3 years, I think now. I've tried it. Mega Man doesn't really mesh well with touch screens. That's what I'll say. It's also on Steam. I think that version's getting shut down though, and that's one of the reasons they're pushing for offline mode here, because with phone games that are specifically tied to gotcha elements, typically it's always online stuff. So if that, we'll say, application goes offline and shuts down, you lose everything. In this case though, the offline mode, that is going live 2023. Street Fighter 6 basically had a commercial here. It's for Capcom Pro Tour 2023. It's over $2 million prize pool, and then Street Fighter League. Okay, Resident Evil 4 VR mode. It is still free, just in case anyone was wondering, for the PS5. No release date. All right, Pragmata. Shots of gameplay. It's action-based. Kind of some Vanquish vibes there, by the way, when they were showing it. Not necessarily as fast, but maybe just the character design. The release, by the way, is postponed to an unknown time. They basically scribbled out 2023, said they're sorry, and just that they need more time on whatever this game is. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. I am quite interested in this game, mostly because some people I know have talked it up a lot as being extremely creative, and it looks creative, right? It was on the DS. I missed this game there, but I like what I'm seeing in terms of it being kind of a very different game is what I'll say. A demo is now available, so that's good if you were kind of curious about it but didn't necessarily know if you want to just throw the money in immediately. I'd say worth checking out. It's a mystery game where you have to solve how the main character died, as well as many other people's deaths, where you'll go back in time 4 minutes and then try to solve how their murder happened and how you can change things up so they basically live, and then work to solve your own murder. It's coming out June 30th, so end of this month. We then had a look at the Ace Attorney Apollo Justice trilogy. It's early 2024. I'm not really into the Ace Attorney series, but it seemed like fans of it were very, very excited to see this get announced. Then they talked about their digital theme park. It's Capcom Town. This is the web browser. I believe you can type this in your web browser and boom, you have a web page that has all kinds of artwork and paying homage to older Capcom series. Some they've kind of forgotten about, like Mega Man, but you can also play some of their classic titles for free right in your browsers. That's kind of fun, I guess. This is, of course, for their 40th anniversary. Exoprimal was next up. So a full story trailer. They're still trying to sell it as something that's not necessarily just a live service multiplayer game with some of these story elements, and the idea is you're attempting to make a better exosuit to fight against these dinosaurs through research and stuff. You've been time traveling for it, like to 2040. And anyway, you can enhance and customize your exosuit as you'd expect, since they did a quick run through of a very large battle pass with all kinds of cosmetics. 10-player co-op mode, which, there you go, that's kind of cool, I guess. You and a bunch of people get together and blast dinosaurs that are falling from the sky at an alarming rate. They do have an open beta still coming up June 16th, so a couple of days, and it is coming out July 14th, 2023, going directly into Game Pass, which is probably where I'll be experiencing it. And then they did finish up with Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, I'm excited for Dragon's Dogma 2. I think there's something they're missing here, though, which I'll get back to. But single-player game, you, of course, have companions with you. It is an action RPG. You customize your main pawn, and you have 2 other support pawns that'll join you from your friends. So you have a party of 4 overall. They are building this in RE Engine, which is, it's good to see just how much use RE Engine is getting, and really what it can be applied to, which seems to be any kind of genre. They might make a racing game with this thing, who knows? But the world is roughly 4 times the size of the original game, and at times it looks very, very impressive. I wrote down that the point where the bridge crumbled, that kind of caught me off guard. It looked really good there. But the thing I would like to see them do is go back to Dragon's Dogma 1 or Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen and patch it so that it unlocks the frame rate at the bare minimum, maybe even push the thing up to 4K on the Xbox Series and the PS5, because I believe there are many people out there who might see this and go, I would like to play Dragon's Dogma, go to it, and they're like, this is kind of sluggish, because yes, the 60 FPS for games like these can obviously enhance the experience. So that's something I would like to see, and there's still time. I mean, the game's not necessarily coming out anytime soon, so if they could go back, announce a patch, I think it would only help them in terms of getting an audience together for this newer title. Anyway, Capcom wrapped things up announcing their 40th anniversary sale, and that was kind of it. There wasn't like a one more thing, no new Monster Hunter. It was kind of a strange thing for Capcom to even have a showcase because they had such large presence at other showcases. It almost felt unnecessary, and for the most part, it was just from what I can tell, really just push Exoprimal out there and be like, take a look at this. But the focus on Dragon's Dogma 2 at the end, I think is good and warranted because that could be a big title for Capcom. But as for their showcase, wasn't really blowing anyone away, and I think it's gonna be very forgettable overall. So it's not a shock that the internet was pretty down on this one. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, give the Ubisoft Forward presentation a grade. Okay, so C was the leading one at 49%, then B at 22%, F at 14%, 11% for D, and then 5% A. I know Ubisoft carries a stigma with it where it's fun to hate on Ubisoft in general, but I think I give this Ubisoft Forward presentation, I think it's a solid B. They did a pretty good job when it comes to gameplay, and that's what people always ask. Show me what the game actually looks like. They delivered there. So again, the presentation, especially when you grade on a curve for what Ubisoft generally does, that was pretty good. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Brad, says, the Prince of Persia looks awesome for me. I never played the Sands of Time, so for me, Prince of Persia is in 2D. I remember playing it on MS-DOS. Wow, you're coming from the opposite end of the spectrum. Most people now remember the 3D Prince of Persia, maybe even thinking to the Xbox 360 game, not even thinking about Sands of Time or Warrior Within or Two Thrones, which is a legendary period for the Prince of Persia franchise. And yeah, I recommend checking out the remake. I mean, if you can get your hands on the original trilogy there, I should say, during the GameCube, PS2, Xbox time, that was a really, really fun time. And you know what? Sands of Time, while the remake is obviously going to help quite a bit, I think it's still playable. I think it's aged all right. So if you can get your hands on it, definitely check it out. But in your case, yeah, the 2D Prince of Persia, as you know, the series probably looks pretty awesome. And to me even, I think it looks great. So I'm excited for Prince of Persia Lost Crown, again, coming up in January. I'm gonna be checking that out day one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whereas the two different showcases, Ubisoft or Capcom, let me know your thoughts and your grades for each one of them. And then also, what about the big Nintendo sale going on right now for the Switch? Leave some of your suggestions, of course, down in the comments for which games people should be taking advantage of those discounts. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.